What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch back here with another NFL rankings video. In this video, I rank every single NFL offensive line heading into the 2021 NFL season, from the worst offensive line to the best offensive line, from number 32 to number 1. Before I rank every offensive line in pro football entering 2021, make sure that you do spike that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL rankings videos just like this. Make sure to check out the playlist where I rank every position in the NFL this offseason entering 2021. And don't forget to comment your thoughts. Let me know if I'm a genius. Let me know if I'm an idiot in the comment section below, and let me know your rankings for every offensive line in the NFL. Let's get into the video. All of the rankings in this video that you see on the graphics are via PFF. These are the PFF player rankings for every player at every offensive line position. Kicking off the offensive line rankings, the worst offensive line in the NFL entering 2021, it's the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins offensive line, it has a lot of depth. It has a lot of players who could start in the NFL, but I'm not sure if any of these players are actually good. That's the way I feel. DJ Fluker, Jackson, Skura, Hunt. These players, they've rather sucked or they've just been okay in their pro careers. Jackson, first round pick a year ago, one of the worst tackles in the league last season. Can he take a step up in 2021? We'll have to see. Hunt moving to guard. We'll see if that works out for the Dolphins. Hunt is the one guy I say has a little bit of potential. Skura was awful last year for the Ravens. They signed him over Ted Karras, which I don't understand why, because Karras is a better player. They also let go of Eric Flowers. They traded him to Washington. He was one of their better linemen a year ago. They let him leave. They drafted Eichenberg. Don't know if he's going to play guard or tackle. My guess is this year he'll play left guard, but maybe he'll move to tackle in the near future because he might have to replace Jackson or move to right tackle for a guy like Fluker. They also brought in Illuminor, who I was a fan of in New England, as a decent swing tackle. So they have plenty of players that can start and have started in this league, but I don't know if any of them are actually high quality, and that's why they are the worst offensive line, in my opinion, entering this season. The second worst offensive line entering 2021 is the New York G-Men. The New York Giants offensive line is one that I think I see a little bit more potential than Miami, especially with a guy like Andrew Thomas at left tackle, who was steadily getting a little bit better throughout last season, and of course the high draft pick that they spent on the guy. So lot of pressure, but also potential there. The rest of the line, I'm questioning, but Nate Solder coming back from the COVID list, that could provide them with rather nice depth, or at least a good guy that could potentially start, a pro's pro, a guy that started for many seasons in this league at a high level. Now, if he doesn't start at left or right tackle, that probably means that one of these younger players is going to step up and take his spot and is outperforming him, which means that they maybe got a breakout player on their hands. Now, the interior is filled with okay NFL players, but nothing above average. Nick Gates, maybe the guy with potential at center. Will Hernandez, we've been waiting for a breakout season forever. It doesn't seem like it's going to happen. I think Shane Lemieux is still fighting for a position there. He may or may not make the roster at all. And then Zach Fulton is kind of replacing what they had in Kevin Zeitler, who's, again, another serviceable NFL talent at guard, but not Kevin Zeitler. So they lost Kevin Zeitler, they got back Nate Solder, and they're hoping for some of these younger guys to take a step forward. So they're about as good or maybe a little bit worse than they were a year ago. The Giants hope that these young guys really take a step forward because they really need it, because if they don't, Daniel Jones is in trouble, Saquon's in trouble, and this entire offense is in trouble in 2021. At number 30, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. For the first time in my life, the Steelers do not have a good offensive line. Like, literally the first time I can remember that the Steelers have a bad offensive line entering a season, or at least an offensive line that I look at and I say, where are the studs? Where are the absolute just Hall of Fame, Pro Bowl, All-Pro caliber players? You know, Alan Fanekas, David DeCastros. I no longer see it here on this offensive line at all. Of course, they went through a lot of transition on the offensive line, from their tackles with Villanueva, from their center to Pouncey and DeCastro at guard. They've lost a lot of their foundation that has really been one of the best offensive lines of this past decade. They are all gone. They are no longer around for the Steelers. Now they have players that I don't know if they're any good. Banner at right tackle. Is he good? He's shown some potential, but I don't know. He hasn't played enough, right? Left tackle Okafor. He kind of sucks. He just does. Trey Turner, they brought in as the replacement for DeCastro. He's been awful for the past 2 to 3 years with Carolina and with the Chargers. He's stunk. So I really don't see anything here. Dotson is a pretty good player. That's about it. BJ Finney, the expected center. Are you kidding me? He's no good. Maybe they have the rookie start over him, but I don't see any studs here. I'm going to give the Steelers the respect they deserve because they're the Steelers and they usually have good offensive lines and they don't have bad coaching, but I don't see the ceiling here. I don't see them opening up holes in the run game. I don't see them protecting Ben consistently. This is a bad line. Number 29, the Carolina Panthers offensive line. The Panthers offensive line is a confusing one to me because they took a major step back this offseason when they improved basically every other position on their team, from quarterback to defensive line to edge rusher to linebacker to corner. They could not improve their offensive line. They actually got worse. Irving in for Okung is a major decline at left tackle, and that really concerns me protecting Sam Darnold, that blind side, because Sam Darnold needs protection. He's not good under pressure, and maybe they're not going to go with Irving. Maybe they'll go with somebody else, but they signed him to a decent contract, so I assume it will be him. Really, the only guy I like is Taylor Moton. Matt Paredes is okay. He's an average center. He was better in the past, but he's never really lived up to the contract that Carolina signed him to in the past, right? The guard position, Miller is a serviceable NFL guard, and Elflein's been terrible for his entire career. The guy stunk for Minnesota. There's a reason they didn't re-sign him. He never lived up to the billing, and I think has maybe had one good season. That's about it. The Elflein signings and the Irving signings, like, two terrible signings in my personal opinion, that put this line on the left side, one of the worst in the league on that side, and one of the worst in the league, period, here at number 29. At number 28, we're sticking in the NFC South with the Atlanta Falcons offensive line. Atlanta has two good players on their offensive line, which is more than I can say for the Carolina Panthers, right? They have Matthews at left tackle. We know what we're getting from him. He's a good player. Sometimes he's a Pro Bowler, borderline Pro Bowler. Sometimes he's just a little bit above average, but he's good overall, right? Then at right guard, we have Chris Lindstrom, who graded as a top 10 guard in the NFL from Pro Football Focus. He's maybe not top 10, but we know he's good, and he had a breakout season. He should be good for a long time there. The thing that does have me questioning whether this line could be better is that Arthur Smith brings in a new offense with obviously a lot new blocking schemes, and that could help some of these other players really break out, like potentially McGarry at right tackle, who has gotten a little bit better in his 2 seasons in the NFL. He stunk in his rookie year, and then he got a little bit better. He was at least respectable in his 2nd season. So maybe he takes a jump in his 3rd year. That certainly happens a lot in the NFL. Now, the other 2 positions are complete question marks. Hennessy at center, I'm not a fan. He's replacing Alex Mack, the legend, at center. That is not good news. And then Mayfield in the 3rd round of the draft. I just don't know what to expect from this rookie who's expected to start. So, Atlanta, 2 good players, potentially 3 good players, and then 2 massive question marks. At number 27, the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line. An offensive line that it was a complete joke last season, and even the year before that, and probably the year before that too. The Bengals have had a bad offensive line for quite some time, and hopefully it gets just a little bit better this year. I do think it's a little bit better. Obviously, I ranked it last year. It probably was last year, and they've improved it a little bit. A lot of talk about Chase or Sewell, but they actually improved this line in free agency and again in the draft in the second round where they picked Carman at guard. I think he's going to start right away at one of the guard positions. They brought in Riley Reiff as the right tackle. Massive upgrade to the right tackle position. I know Reiff isn't some standout Pro Bowl tackle, but he's a serviceable pro tackle, and I cannot say that they've had that recently. Jonah Williams is a good player. I think he might even get better this year protecting the blind side of Joe Burrow. Hopkins is a solid center, ranking in the top 20 by Pro Football Focus, and we know what Quinton Spain is. He's a serviceable pro guard. So this line just doesn't have any terrible players anymore. It used to have 2 to 3 awful, no good starters, and now it doesn't really have any true weaknesses, but doesn't really have any true studs. If Williams can be that stud, if they can get a good pick in that second round from Carman, then maybe we're talking about the Bengals O-line being even better than I think it can be in 2021. At number 26, the Chicago Bears offensive line. The Bears confuse me with their strategy on the offensive line. I really like aspects to it. I thought the Tevin Jenkins pick was a good pick, but he is a rookie starting at left tackle in the NFL. That's a lot of pressure. And he's not a first-round pick, although some people thought he should have been. So we'll see how he performs. He's got a real just grind attitude to him and play style to him that I do like, and it fits Chicago quite well. But their interior is what I like the most. Whitehair is a really good center. Daniels is a pretty darn good guard. And then also Afedi played quite well for them last season, where he could play guard or he could play tackle, but I think he's more suited for guard, keeping that trio together in the inside. What I do not like is Elijah Wilkinson at right tackle. He's been terrible. For the Broncos, he's been terrible for the past 2 to 3 years. Starting in place for what was supposed to be Juwan James there in Denver. Wilkinson was called to the table, and he could not deliver, period. Now, I don't understand why they let go of Massey and Leno Jr., and the guys that they've had, I understand haven't been fantastic, but they're probably better, or at least you could use one of them in this situation here. I like aspects to this line. I like 3, maybe 4 out of the 5 players, but I do still see some weaknesses in this Bears line. And then you add on to the fact that they kind of haven't performed well as a unit over the past couple of years with Matt Nagy's system. They haven't been great protecting the quarterback. They haven't been great in the run game. So they've overall been a pretty bad offensive line over the past couple seasons. I expect that to be the same. At number 25, the Las Vegas Raiders offensive line. Da Raiders went through a transformation on the offensive line this offseason. An interesting one, to say the least. I had no idea what they were doing for most of the time, but now we kind of have a picture of what they're trying to go after. They tried to get cheaper on the O-line, but maintain some talent. We'll see how it works out for John Gruden and Mike Mayock. They lost 3 legitimately good players, right? Trent Brown went to New England. Jackson went to Seattle. Hudson went to the Arizona Cardinals. And they were all kind of hurt in and out of the lineup last season. So I understand what Raiders fans will tell me when they're telling me that this line can still be good. It has to be the heart and soul of this team, which is interesting. Colton Miller's a pretty good left tackle. I don't mind him at all. I believe they signed him to an extension. Richie Incognito, he's been good, but he's only getting older. Nick Martin, wasn't a bad signing from the Texans. I think he kind of has flown under the radar as a pass blocker. He's pretty solid. I don't think he's Rodney Hudson, but I think he's a starting center in the league. Denzel Good, he's been fine, I guess. Like, he's nothing special, but he does have a little bit of versatility. He's likely to start at guard this season. And then you slide in there the first round pick Leatherwood, which shocked me. You know, if they would have went with a guy like Darisaw, who I liked a lot more, I probably would be higher on this line overall. But hey, that's their pick, that's their selection, that's their preference, and I can't really hate on it. But the line isn't as bad as you would think after losing some legit good offensive linemen. They've been able to maintain a pretty okay unit, and I could see it being kind of average at best, but I could also see it kind of underperforming if a guy like Leatherwood doesn't step up and perform for year one. If Good and Martin are not what they expected them to be. So a lot of new pieces, a lot of new continuity to build, but it's very interesting to say the least. At number 24, the Minnesota Vikings offensive line. I really like the direction the Vikings went in terms of addressing this offensive line, which has been a need for them for years. I'm talking years. The interesting thing with the Vikings has been they've been a good run blocking offensive line, a good pass blocking offensive line when it comes to play action, but when it comes to actually exposing these guys to a traditional drop back game, that's where Kirk Cousins and this offense has not been at their best. Christian Darisaw hopefully addresses that left tackle blind side need for Kirk Cousins this year. Right away should be a good player. I like some of their players already. O'Neal, I've liked at right tackle. I don't mind Bradbury at center. I think he's real good in terms of the run blocking game. Cleveland has kind of flown under the radar as a left guard. They have a lot of young players here. A lot of young players that are within 3 to 4 years of their pro career. Across the line of scrimmage. All the way across. They're trying to build something. They're trying to build continuity across the line. Davis as well, who they drafted in the mid-rounds, I was intrigued by. So they have an offensive line that I don't mind at all. I could see this line being a lot better than people expect because of the young talent that could all kind of together take a step forward and be better than we expect. But at the same time, you're counting on a couple rookies here, and you're counting on these rookies to deliver right away, which is always a huge question. So while I like the potential, I have to be willing to accept that it could go the wrong way as well. At number 23, the Houston Texans offensive line. The Texans offensive line is one that I do feel has been a little underrated because of the style of play Deshaun Watson plays with. He runs around and takes sacks, and that often gets blamed on the offensive line. While that's not true, the offensive line has played fairly decent over the past year or two. They've gotten steadily better, okay? And they haven't been bad run blocking wise either. You look at this line today, and the reason I don't have them higher is I do see clear holes and also like real questions for this line that I don't think I have with the lines above them. We know Tunsil's great, right? But other than that, the other 4 players are questionable because Howard's now going to be asked to move to the inside because they brought in Marcus Cannon. Marcus Cannon, who I adore. I love this guy as a Patriots fan. He could be great, but he's also old and he's coming off a year where he didn't play. So I don't know what to expect from him. Howard is playing a new position. Or either way, even if you expect Cannon to play guard, which I don't expect, he's going to play tackle in my opinion. But even vice versa, Cannon hasn't played much guard in his career, so he'd be playing a new position. Center, Britt, I just believe came out of retirement to play for them. So another guy that's kind of older. And then Sharping hasn't been very good overall, ranking 69th a year ago for Pro Football Focus. Tunsil's great. The other 4 are interesting. And if they can put together a good unit, they certainly have talent here. It's just a matter of, can they successfully deliver as a unit? At number 22, I have the Denver Broncos offensive line. The Broncos offensive line is one that I think has great potential. Garrett Bowles broke out last year as one of the league's best left tackles, period. Dalton Reisner could be his season to break out at left guard. We know Graham Glasgow is an above average guard in this league. But the rest of the line, the other two spots, I like Bobby Massey. I think they kind of bailed themselves out by picking up Bobby Massey here. And the Bears kind of bailed them out, to be quite honest with you. Juwan James went down with an injury. We were expecting him to come in and start at right tackle. That never worked out for them with that contract, unfortunately. But Bobby Massey is a starting caliber right tackle in pro football. Cushenberry is probably their worst player, and overall, the center position is a question. They drafted another kid this year, just like they did last year, to try to find somebody who can play center for them, and I think out of the two of them, they can find somebody that's serviceable. So, the Broncos, certainly, Bowles is awesome. Reisner and Glasgow have the capability of being awesome, and as long as the rest of the line can just be fine, they should be a pretty good offensive line this year. At number 21, I have the Jacksonville Jags offensive line. I think Jacksonville's offensive line has been kind of underrated over the past couple of years. Even dating back to when they were a very good team in 2017, I didn't think their offensive line got enough credit for how good and how big of a part they were to the team's success that season. But now we're in 2021, and I love the interior. Andrew Norwell, Linder, and Can, all ranked inside the top 21 players at their positions by Pro Football Focus. Very solid interior line, especially when it comes to getting push in the run game. That was a big reason that they were still able to run the ball last year. The tackles are where it's concerning and where I can't rank them any higher. Robinson, they franchise, so obviously they feel he has something to offer. And obviously they feel he could still break out because he hasn't really shown it thus far in his career. But he certainly, we know, has some talent. Then you have Jawan Taylor, same thing. High pick, a guy that a lot of people thought had a big potential but hasn't really delivered yet. If they can find a way to get the best out of Robinson and Taylor, they could really have something with this offensive line. So, still some youth at the tackle position, some of the older veterans in the interior, but good players. And I like this offensive line a fair bit. I think they're one of the more underrated ones in the league, and they come in at 21. Entering the top 20 at number 20, the New York Jets offensive line has taken significant strides since last year, like significant. Becton has proven to be an absolute freaking monster at left tackle, who's going to be a monster for a long time for them. Elijah Vera-Tucker, excellent pick in the first round. They moved up to get him. I think it was worth it. He's going to play at left guard. Center, Connor McGovern, they signed a couple seasons ago. I expect him to play better this year. Reason is, I think he's in a better system for him this year. I think him inside of this sort of McVay, LaFleur type system is going to suit him much better. Then you have Lewis at right guard. He's okay. He's a serviceable guard. They have a couple players. Van Roten's another who could maybe fight for this position. And right tackle Morgan Moses was a very nice signing, ranking inside the top 20 at 18 at tackle a year ago for Washington. He is a starting NFL right tackle and probably a top half right tackle in this league. So the Jets across the board don't really have any weaknesses. And they have, to me, a stud in Becton, a potential stud in Vera-Tucker, and maybe a player that could be better this year in McGovern. So don't sleep on the Jets' O-line. They're good on the line of scrimmage. At number 19, the Seattle Seahawks offensive line. Another team that's improved their offensive line. The Seahawks, Russell Wilson, he's been complaining a little bit that he's been sacked too much, hit too much. He's under too much duress, especially against Aaron Donald and the Rams. Well, let's bring in Jackson from the Raiders, who's been a good guard for his entire career. We know what we're going to get. He is great in the run game. He's powerful. He's going to bring an attitude towards this team, and he's also been fairly good pass protecting as well. That's going to help Russell Wilson. That's where they were really, really bad last year, was overall the interior would collapse on Russell Wilson when they played a team like the Rams who had that interior pass rush. It was not a good thing. But now, hopefully, with the trio of Lewis, Pochich, and Jackson, that should be better, and that should be worthy of protecting Russell Wilson. Dwayne Brown's one of the most underrated tackles in the league, still an excellent player, and has proven to be a great trade for them. Season after season, he's played as their best lineman, and he's been well worth that trade. 5th ranked by PFF a year ago, and Brandon Shell is not a bad player. He's just been a solid pro right tackle in this league for a while. He's started for a while. He has experience. Nothing special, but also not a clear weakness either. So this line is better. I think they have potential to have 3 to 4 actual good players at these spots, and that's the best from Seattle in quite a while. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was the best Seattle offensive line since like their Super Bowl days. At number 18, the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers O-line completely revamped across the board in a good way. Corey Linsley, the best center in football, comes in. You have Rashawn Slater at left tackle, the rookie, who a lot of people really loved. Brian Bulaga is still there, who they brought in a season ago, but maybe he'll play better this year with better players around him. Matt Filer is nice to have as just a solid pass blocker at the right guard position, ranking 32nd by PFF. And Ibushi from the Lions, who PFF also loved, ranking 26th. Not sure he really has ever shown an extensive period of starting, but he's shown good play when he has played. So this is a line that has plenty of potential, but they also don't have any continuity at all. These are all new starters basically, except for Bulaga. But I do like the ability to address the position of need to protect Justin Herbert. It was clearly a position of need, and you couldn't expect Justin Herbert to play under all the pressure he played and deliver the way he delivered a year ago, but I don't think he will need to because these players are going to fit in well. Linsley joins a scheme that I think is going to be fairly similar to the one that he played in with the Packers. I think Slater has a chance to be very good at left tackle. Bulaga's shown that he can be very good at right tackle. The guards are a little bit weaker, but they have also shown that they can be pretty average players at their position, maybe even a bit above average. So line certainly has potential, just haven't seen it yet, and that's why they rank at 18. At number 17, the Buffalo Bills offensive line. The Bills offensive line is solid. Like, really, the Bills offensive line, what I could say about it is it's not bad. Like, honestly, the Bills O-line is probably the most average unit in the league. Like, it's better at pass blocking than run blocking for sure. I think I downgrade them a bit because they're not great at run blocking. But they protect Allen quite well, especially on the edges with Dawkins and with Darrell Williams, who are two good tackles. They have Mitch Morse at center, who's a good center. And really, they're not great at guard. So Valenciano, Ford. Valenciano's better than Ford. Maybe Ford might not be the guy, but that's who I project to get the start at right guard. But what I like about the Bills is they have a lot of depth on their O-line. So really none of these players would really absolutely tear the team apart if they went down. Like, obviously you don't want Dawkins or Williams to go down, but like they could replace them with the depth that they possess on this line. So the Bills have done a good job of easily replacing players, finding players that fit in, finding layers of depth at the offensive line, and then finding two bookend tackles who can do well in pass protection to protect their franchise quarterback. At number 16, the Arizona Cardinals offensive line. This line has a chance to be even better than this ranking. Rodney Hudson has the capability of being the best center in the league. DJ Humphries ranked inside the top 5 at left tackle with a breakout season. Justin Pugh is really good, in my opinion, when he's healthy. And they have an excellent left side of the line from Hudson on over to Humphries. It's real good. I expect that to be where they run the ball most often. It's a pretty good pass blocking side. And the right is not great, right? Beachum is a serviceable veteran right tackle. Winters is, again, a serviceable veteran right guard who's kind of like a borderline starter high-end backup type for a number of years. And that's kind of their O-line. Good left side, not great right side, but not a killer right side. And that's fine. So this line was actually better than expected pass protecting last year, but they couldn't really open anything up run blocking. Hopefully, Rodney Hudson can open things up the middle, Justin Pugh can stay healthy, and DJ Humphries can maintain that level of play. If that can happen, they can be really good, and if they can get a little bit more balance, I think this line could be even better than number 16. At number 15, the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line. The Eagles offensive line, of course, has plenty of big names with Jason Kelce, Brandon Brooks, and Lane Johnson. They no longer have Jason Peters, but this line has tons of talent, obviously. Players that have proven it at the highest level in the biggest of games and have dominated their positions. Brandon Brooks is the standout. He is an absolute stud. He did not play last year, and it's going to be exciting to see him back on the football field. Jason Kelce is still a top 10 center in this league, even at his older age. Lane Johnson maybe has had a little bit too many injuries and maybe is declining because of it, but he's still good, and I'd still take him over most right tackles in football. They also drafted Dickerson in the second round, who could play center, could play guard, maybe even starts at left guard this year. But they have depth, which is nice to see. And I do think Andre Dillard is in the camp battle of his life to get that starting spot at left tackle. So we'll see what the Eagles decide to do at left tackle and left guard, which is where their weaknesses lie. But, of course, they still have those awesome, great players in Kelce, Brooks, and Johnson that still make them a top 15 unit and a unit that's capable of dominating any game. At number 14, the Green Bay Packers offensive line. The Packers offensive line was excellent last year. In terms of performance last year, it was easily top 5. It protected Aaron Rodgers and allowed Aaron Rodgers to be the MVP. This year, they have many more questions heading into the season. David Bakhtiari is coming off a major injury. We know he's amazing, but he's coming off an injury, right? They lost Corey Linsley, who is the best center in the league by a far margin, and they replaced him with a rookie. Second round rookie nonetheless, but they replaced him with a rookie. Elgton Jenkins is one of the more underrated offensive linemen in the league. He is very good at guard. Patrick is pretty good at guard as well on the right side. And they're also replacing their right tackle with Billy Turner, who's going to be playing right tackle now instead. He is a starting caliber tackle, but he's not fantastic. So you look across the board, they have a couple new players in the starting lineup. They have 2 standout players and 1 pretty good player. And I think overall, the Packers have season in, season out proven that they can put a good offensive line on the field to protect Aaron Rodgers and to be good in that run game for Aaron Jones. I think they'll be good again. I just don't know if they'll be elite this year because of the turnover that they've had, and that injury to Bakhtiari does scare me a little bit. At number 13, the Baltimore Ravens offensive line. The Ravens, they want to overpower you. They want to run you over. The Ravens, I was really surprised with the layers of depth this offensive line possesses. It's really impressive, and it's really Baltimore Raven-like. Yes, they lost Orlando Brown, and everyone's going to talk about that, but getting Villanueva from Pittsburgh, that's a good signing. Villanueva is still a starting tackle in this league, and a good pass-blocking tackle at that. Is he a great run-blocking tackle? No, not necessarily, but hey, let's run to the left side. Because we got Ronnie Stanley on the left side, who's maybe the best left tackle in the damn league. So you have a good veteran tackle and a great young stud at the other tackle. You move to the interior, you've upgraded. Kevin Zeitler can still be a very good player, especially when he's motivated in this offensive line. I think he's going to fit in very well, and he's going to be excellent for their running game. Bozeman is pretty solid, especially in the power run game. Macari, same thing. So they have Bozeman, Macari, who are really power guys. Same, I think Zeitler upgrades the pass blocking from the interior, but also can bring a good run blocker. And I do think he'll be better than he was in New York. He's proven he can be elite at any given moment. So they get Stanley back. I think people forget that they didn't have him last year, right, for a majority of the season. And yes, they lost Brown, but Stanley's better than Brown. And they upgraded the other spot with Villanueva over whoever they were playing at any given time last year. But they still have other guys at depth positions like Powers and like Schofield and some of these guys that I do like. So I think the Ravens have just proven year in and year out it doesn't really matter. They're going to find replacements for guys that go down. They always constantly adjust, and they always play their game, and they always play it well. So I think the Ravens are going to have a good offensive line once again in 2021 for Lamar Jackson and this running game. At number 12, the Detroit Lions offensive line. The Detroit Lions have some really impressive players. Decker at left tackle, top 12 according to PFF. Ragnow at center, top 3 according to PFF. And of course, the first round pick, Sewell out of Oregon, who could be the next great tackle in this league. So you have potentially 3 all-pro, Pro Bowl caliber type players. But the other 2 players are where it's a little concerning, right? Jackson and Vaitai. I expect Vaitai to actually be good at guard. I never really thought he was a great tackle. He had his moments with the Eagles there in that Super Bowl run, but it was hard not to with the rest of the offensive line talent they possessed. But Vaitai inside, it makes more sense because he's a good run blocker. He has great size and he has pretty good movement skills. So I think he'll be good in like pull runs and things of that nature. Jackson has never been great for them, but still young, still improving. Ranked 55th a season ago. Just a little marginal improvement would make him a pretty good player at this position. So looking at the Lions offensive line, I just expect Sewell to be an absolute beast from day one. I think Decker is already very good, and I know Ragnow is excellent. So with those 3 players in the most important spots on the line for them, I think it makes their weaker players not as noticeable, and you can kind of, I guess, hide them a little bit more, but the Lions are going to expect this offensive line to carry this offense. I don't really think they're going to be a great offense, but they're going to have an offensive line for a long time here with 3 foundational pieces and potentially a line that could dominate on Sundays for the next few seasons. At number 11, maybe the most underrated offensive line in the NFL entering 2021, the Washington football team offensive line. I just think they're really well-rounded and they have like no weaknesses and they have great depth. I'm telling you, Washington, look at their depth chart. They have legit like good starters. At guard, they have 3 or 4 guys that can start in this league. They have 3-ish type tackles who can start in the NFL. They have a couple centers, like really good depth, layers on this offensive line. I always appreciate that because we know that an injury on the offensive line can absolutely destroy the continuity, the chemistry, and the greatness of an offensive line. But then you look at the starting unit and no player is bad. They have no weaknesses. The tackles played well last year. The guards are really good. I like the addition of Eric Flowers from Miami. He played really well for Washington just 2 seasons ago, and I think he'll get back to that with Washington this year. And then you have Brandon Scherf, who's this beast. He's a top 5 guard in the league. They have a top 10 center in the league. So just across the board, Washington has really good players. I think they can really overpower teams in the run game. They can protect an older quarterback in Fitzpatrick. And they can really withstand injury, which I appreciate. So Washington is at number 11. Entering the top 10, at number 10, the Los Angeles Rams offensive line. The Rams, unlike the Washington football team, don't have a lot of depth, which I think hurts their ranking here because when you look at their starting lineup, they perhaps have a top 8-ish offensive line when it comes to a starting lineup, especially in terms of their performance last year. The Rams are weird, though, because they were really bad in 2019, but excellent in 2018 and in 2017, and then they bounced back in 2020 for what it's worth. In 2021, they're going to have a better quarterback. They're going to have a better running back. They're likely going to be the source of this offense through the play-action game. And McVay's going to set them up for success, as he always does. And that's the thing with the Rams. Maybe their individual talent isn't the greatest in the league, but the way they play as a unit and the way they fit this scheme is excellent. Andrew Whitworth still can friggin' ball, bro. I can't believe it. 6th in the NFL at his position at the old age. I don't expect him to slow down. I'm just through with it. He's good. I don't care. Maybe he takes a slight step back. It doesn't really matter to me. Havenstein, I always forget which one it is, but the guy is pretty much good every second year. Like last year, he was good. 14th in the league according to Pro Football Focus. Maybe he's not good this year, but with Stafford possibly protecting him a little bit more than a Jared Goff, and Stafford, this is a big thing, calling the checks at the line, understanding the pass protection better than Jared Goff, where Jared Goff was lost versus the blitz. That's going to make this line better. The guards, Corbett and Edwards. Is it Corbet? Is he French? Either way, they're good, right? Top 15 at both spots, according to PFF. And I thought really the source of their run game. And they bring back Allen at center. Yes, they lost Blythe, but Allen was actually going to be the starter. He was expected to be the starter. Blythe kind of took his place because he was hurt. So I like this top 5. I like overall what they have in the starting lineup. The depth concerns me a little bit. They have Noteboom on the bench, who has played for them a little bit but hasn't been great. So maybe they look to add a couple veterans here before the season begins, or maybe they have rookies that they like a little bit. But the Rams last year were too good for me not to put them in the top 10, and I expect them to have another top 10 performance this year, protecting Matthew Stafford and opening up lanes for Cam Akers. At number 9, the Tennessee Titans offensive line. I love the Titans offensive line because they are truly the identity of their team that nobody talks about. The Titans love to run you over. They love to overpower you. They love to be the bullies. And that's exactly what this offensive line is. Taylor Lewan is a bully. He's a beast. He's a monster. He is just absolutely going to run you into the dirt in an old school fashion and form. And he is back in the lineup at left tackle. I think that catapults them back into the top 10. Roger Saffold's a very good player. Jones is a very good player. Both are top 12, 15 at their position. Davis is slept on at right guard. The real question mark is right tackle. Who's it going to be? They drafted a kid in the second round in Reduns, who I think is probably going to take that spot, but they have depth on the line that I do appreciate, which is why I put them a spot above the Rams, because they have a bit more depth on the O-line where they could maybe withstand another Lewan injury and not be so bad. So, the Titans, good O-line, really good run blocking wise. I think if they get better as a pass blocking unit, they'd rank even higher. At number 8, the Kansas City Chiefs, a team that watched the film from the Super Bowl and said, that's never going to happen again to us. That's never going to happen to Patrick Mahomes ever again. We're not going to let it happen. We're going to have linemen here, linemen there. We're going to take a lineman from free agency. We're going to take one out of retirement. We're going to draft one. We're going to trade for guys. We don't care. We're going to take linemen. Orlando Brown, first round pick. See you later. Let's get a big left tackle who's young in the building. Joe Thuney, one of the best pass blocking guards in the league. Let's get him in here from New England. We got Austin Blythe from the Rams, who was top 10 at his position last year. We drafted a kid in the second, third round to bring in, to be depth, and maybe a down-the-road starter. We're getting the doctor back from Canada, Tardif, Duvernay Tardif. He's coming back from Quebec. He's going to play right guard. Or maybe it's going to be Kyle Long, Chris Long's brother, who came out of retirement just to protect Patrick Mahomes. And then we have Mike Ramers at right tackle, who kind of sucked in the Super Bowl, but he's been better at right tackle than left tackle in his career. He's proven that, and ranked 40th last year before that absolute debacle in the Super Bowl. So this line's really good. I don't think people talk about it because it's brand new, but it's going to be good. I know Andy Reid always has good O-lines, even with way less talent than this, and now he has great talent, and I think it's going to be just absolutely superb. There's going to be games where Mahomes isn't touched, and there's going to be games now where the Chiefs can actually power run the ball, which I think is something that's under the radar that we didn't see last year, that I think is going to be big in their game this year when they need it. At number 7, the Dallas Cowboys offensive line. The Cowboys offensive line has consistently frustrated me because they're never healthy. All 5 of these guys seemingly cannot be healthy at the same time. Tyron Smith's the big one. I mean, he's a Hall of Fame type player, but he's been out countless times over the past few seasons. If they could just be healthy for a full season, they would dominate week in and week out. Tyron Smith and La'el Collins is maybe the best duo in the league when they're healthy. It's probably second best, right? It's in the top 3. They're phenomenal. So I love the Collins-Smith duo. Zach Martin is the second best offensive lineman in the league, only behind Quentin Nelson, and you could argue he's maybe better. I mean, it's close, right? Martin is not that much worse than Nelson. And then you have Williams, Connor Williams, who had a breakout year last year despite everything else falling apart around him, ranking 16th by PFF a year ago. Their one lone question is the center position, but they had a rookie last year who could maybe develop into a better player this year, kind of the same way Williams did for them over the past couple of years. So I think the Cowboys, the main thing is health. If they can remain healthy on the O-line, they're going to be great all around, and we've seen it before where they've dominated seasons. So they have the talent. They have 3 borderline all-pro caliber players, and if they can all just be on the field, they are for sure a top 7, maybe a top 5 offensive line in the league. The number 6 offensive line in the NFL entering 2021 is the San Francisco 49ers. It's headlined by the best tackle in the NFL, in my opinion. That is Trent Williams. The guy is an absolute mauler monster. He's great in the run game. He's great in the pass game. He is a brick wall. Alex Mack, you bring him back into a Kyle Shanahan system. Maybe he'll be reinvigorated in this system with this coach, with this offensive line. Mike McGlinchey, okay, not the greatest pass blocker at times, but a dominant run blocker. Brunskill has proven to be a pretty good player at guard or at tackle, and Tomlinson has been good for this team a number of years, especially the last 2 years. Tomlinson has turned his career around with the 49ers, ranking inside the top 10 at guard a year ago and being a big part of their run to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. So across the board, they have no weaknesses, nobody underneath a PFF grade of 25, and one of the best tackles in the league, one of the best run blocking tackles in the league, still a guy who can be one of the best centers in the league, and 2 underrated guards. I think this line will be dominant in the run game. They're very athletic, and they're pretty darn good across the board. I think Kyle Shanahan has himself a dominant offensive line for 2021. At number 5, entering the top 5, the Indianapolis Colts offensive line, the line that was number 1 for me a year ago. Last year, they showed dominance, and they were dominant last year. Were they the best offensive line? I think that's debatable. Maybe they were, but they lost their left tackle in Anthony Costanzo, which is a big concern. They brought in Eric Fisher, who has the capability of being a good tackle, but he's coming off a major injury, and I'm not sure when he'll come back and when he'll be fit to play. But when he comes back, they do have the capability of being dominant. Of course, Quentin Nelson is probably the best offensive lineman in the league. Kelly is really good at center. Smith is pretty darn good at right tackle. Glowinski is their weakness, and he ranked 23rd by PFF at the guard position. So across the board, no weaknesses. They have chemistry outside of left tackle, and I don't think it will take long for Fisher to get in there as long as he's fit to play and gain that chemistry once again. They're great at run blocking. They're good at pass blocking. And they're going to need to be because they're protecting Carson Wentz, who needs that protection to be successful. I think the Colts will once again be a dominant unit in 2021. My number 4 offensive line entering 2021 is the New Orleans Saints. The one thing I'll say about the Saints is you could see slight decline from them just because You're changing from a Drew Brees to a Jameis Winston, and Winston puts a lot more pressure on an offensive line to protect longer because Brees gets rid of the football very quickly and protects his offensive line, and that definitely has helped this offensive line over the years. But what we're also going to see is a Saints team shift to more of a power running team, and that will help guys like Andres Pete and Ruiz really show what they can do as run blockers. In the inside, Alvin Kamara will be relied on. We know they have the best tackle duo in the league with Armstead and Ramczyk. It's phenomenal. But the interior didn't have their best performance last year. Pete 46th, Ruiz 64th. Not the greatest from PFF's perspective. McCoy 11th. Good. The Saints didn't have their greatest performance last year, but we know how great their talent individually is. The one thing that they maybe don't have as much is the great depth that they used to have, but they're still phenomenal in their starting five. Very good run blocking, very good pass blocking, and that tackle duo makes them without a doubt a top 10 unit and still, in my opinion, a top 5 unit at number 4. At number 3, the number 3 offensive line in the NFL entering 2021 is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The reason I have the Buccaneers at number 3, a big reason, is their right tackle. Tristan Wirfs is an absolute stud, and he's the best young offensive lineman I've seen in quite some time at the tackle position. He has the potential to be an all-pro in maybe every season of his career going forward. He is that good, that dominant. And when you have that type of player, it allows the rest of your line to be that great. Because you can really just have one guy shut down one of the best pass rushers in the league and kind of work around the rest of your other guys. But with this line, it's not just one player. Donovan Smith stepped up his game huge, protecting the blind side of Tom Brady, and was really dominant at the end of the year. Ali Marpet's one of the best guards in the league, all around a monster. Alex Kappa slept on, ranking 22nd by PFF a year ago. They have solid depth, drafting a guy in the 3rd round out of Notre Dame. They had Stinney step up and start in the Super Bowl and in their playoff run. So they have depth in the outside and in the inside with proven players and some pretty good draft picks. And Ryan Jensen is a really good mauler of a center who brings a physicality and sets the tone for this offensive line. They're a good O-line across the board. They bring a bit of toughness, a bit of grit, and also a bit of finesse. They're good in the pass game. They're good in the run game. I think they could be even better this year because they're gaining more chemistry together and more time with Tom Brady, and I expect them to be better this year. They showed that they can dominate the game run blocking and dominate the game pass blocking. They're a great unit, they're a big unit, and they're going to be great in 2021. The number 2 offensive line in the NFL, and quite honestly, I think you could argue they're the best. I think by the end of the year, they might very well be the best offensive line. That is the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots offensive line is absolutely stellar. They do not have a player on this offensive line ranked below 15th by Pro Football Focus at their position. You have Isaiah Wynn at left tackle, who's maybe the most underrated left tackle in the entire league. Yes, he's been hurt, but when he plays, he is shut down. He is very good in space, very good in the run screen game, and as a pass protector. He could move inside with that type of versatility. Talking about versatility, Owenu, who they picked from Michigan late in the draft last year, absolutely phenomenal. One of the best run blockers already in the NFL, just destroys people. David Andrews, we know him. Great leader, great presence on the O-line, very good all-around center. Shaq Mason, another mauler at guard. They have the best run-blocking guard duo in the league by far. And then you have Trent Brown, who is a monster of a man, who when he was playing on New England was a Pro Bowl level left tackle. So you bring him back, he's going to be a beast in this system. This line is going to dominate the line of scrimmage, especially in the run game, where they are going to maul teams. So they have great depth behind it as well, with a guy like Ted Karras as a top 20 center as their 6th lineman. So that's phenomenal. I believe the Patriots will dominate teams and be great on the O-line in 2021. The number one offensive line entering 2021 is the Cleveland Browns. It's shocking, I know, to say the Browns are number one, but this offensive line is the heart and soul of their team, period, and they performed as the best unit in 2020. I expect them to carry that momentum into 2021 with their first round pick from a year ago getting better. I believe this year in year number 2. Batonio, upper echelon guard. Teller, the number 1 rated guard by PFF in 2020. Treader, the number 2 center in the league. Conklin, arguably the best run blocking right tackle in the NFL. They have a phenomenal unit with 4 players ranking in the top 10 at their position, 3 players ranking in the top 5. They have so much talent. They dictate the pace of play. They dictate a game. They dominate the line of scrimmage. They can run block with the best of them, pass block very well, protect Baker Mayfield, allow him to have confidence, and deliver throws down the field. This is the best offensive line in the league right now, and I don't think it will change, but they're phenomenal. And if the Browns go far this year, it's because this is the unit that takes them there. Those are my rankings for every offensive line in the NFL. If you enjoyed, make sure you do. Gronk, spike that like button. Don't forget to subscribe for more Bottom Line View just like this. It's Mitch. Thanks for watching. Peace.